Hello and welcome to another episode of the Worlds 2024 Swiss Round 1 Roundup. This is going to be a lengthy one. So I essentially had all these videos planned out, but I'm a one-man crew. I'm just getting started, and all this scripts that I wrote are going to be irrelevant tomorrow. So I'm just going to run you through my the whole everything, like the rest of the matchups, while the T1 Top Esports matchup for EWC plays in the background. So, first and foremost, we are looking at, of course, this matchup. This is a back-to-back, not a back-to-back, sorry, this is a certified banger, in my opinion. This is the finalists, obviously, for the EWC. Which, I mean, obviously a lot of people say that tournament is not necessarily as impactful or as, like, you know, real as, like, obviously a Riot tournament, but I digress. Anyway, this should be a complete banger, but I also think it's like a big 50-50 here. Top Esports is seeking revenge, obviously, on T1 following their EWC loss here. I guess I should just go through the bad and the good for each team, which is basically what I had laid out as my idea. So for the bad for Top Esports, Tien is a known group stage exiter. This guy, you know, he got eliminated by GAM a couple years ago. That was really brutal. He got eliminated on FPX in pools a year when I was really excited for FPX, which just makes me sad. Also a world champ, so maybe if he gets out of groups, it's just Jover. Who knows? Jackie Love will be kind of interesting to see what he's going to be playing. I don't know what the Swiss meta is going to be. I imagine there will be a lot of change going into it, as opposed to what we had going on in the play-in stage. And then Kareem. We really need to know what Kareem's going to be playing. I mean, this guy is a Tristana lover. Mid ADCs were his jam, and yeah, he kind of doesn't have that anymore. So we'll kind of be interested. I'll be interested to see how he performs on whatever the meta is. I think a lot of people think it's going to be things like Syndra Orianna, which I don't think are necessarily the Kareem's strongest suits. I mean, this guy's a Kiana guy. So let's just see. I want to see how he shapes up. And then the bad for T1. Obviously, we've got to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Faker's form. It's not been very good. I mean, you can see even in this game that's on your screen right now, he's 0-3. This is a very typical start for Faker against top teams. Now, this guy will always dominate the lower competition, so I don't have too many worries about him getting to top 8. But I'm stressed out that he's not going to be able to perform. But I also think that the little hiatus he got after LCK, I know it's not long, but I think that little hiatus will be very, very beneficial for him. And then, obviously, we're going to need to see if owner struggles continue. That's going to be Faker dependent. I really think the mid jungle are very intertwined in just about any meta, just the way League of Legends works these days, because you know those are the two high resource players that can impact kind of the whole map, decided or based on how they want to play it. And then we've got to wonder about what carry is going to play. I mean, you can see right here he's playing Bard. He loves to play weird stuff like that, so he's going to need to see if his draft wrinkles are going to be good. I'm not sure if they're going to be good or bad. And the Zeus factor, you know, Zeus is like the Shy. He's kind of a feast or famine top laner. I think that's a fair way to describe him. Very, very strong player. But sometimes he draws a lot of pressure, and it doesn't necessarily turn into a win for his team, if that makes sense. And then, so that's it for the bad for both teams. Let's talk about the good now. We got 369 in the top lane. This guy is an absolute rock, a behemoth. I have him down as the Warden. I think he's just like he's gonna skill check you every single time. Like, he's gonna make it so that you mess up like your lane, your wave state one time. He's gonna really punish that, obviously, against the lower player. And I'm not expecting anyone from the EWC to do this, but you can see, like, he's going to get solo kills. He's going to survive matchups. He's going to be this guy who can always give you a draft edge because he doesn't need a counter pick. He's somebody who loves to live in the Kisante Renekton meta. I mean, you guys can see it right here. He's an insane Renekton. That guy, I mean, a lot of people have said this but he buys a lot of space for his team, for the carries of the team to really cook. And he's got cooking carries, like obviously Cream and Jackie Love. Those two guys can do a lot of damage, and 369 is good at peeling them. And then obviously we have the mega stable Mako. I mean, this guy is awesome. This guy is, he's a world champion now. He's one of the best supports of all time. And yeah, I mean, he's gonna be one of the rocks that I think top esports can rely on. And Jackie Love and Cream, they're a bot lane that can really have potency. I mean, you see them in combos like this. I mean, like they got the Freljord combo right here, Ashe Braum. That's really, really strong for them. I think that's even going to be something they could consider in this meta. I'm not sure about Braum necessarily. I think it's very dependent on like the projectile, ness of the comp, if that makes sense. But yeah, we'll see. I think there's a lot of good for top esports here for sure. And then for T1's good, I mean, it's the same thing. Faker's form, is he going to get the world's buff? I think a lot of people think he will, myself included. I think he's going to be showing up incredibly strong, especially versus teams in Swiss stage. And Carey has commented in interviews himself that T1 show up at Worlds. They just do. And then, this is the funny part about the good for top East, or for T1 and the bad for T1. They're the same for the most part. Carry a draft, that's a huge advantage if the meta like permits it. I already pretty much discussed that though. Zeus factor, I mean, this guy can pop off. This guy can absolutely 1v9 games, or he can do what he's doing on your screen and just teleport into instant death in an elimination game. Anyway, and then we got Guma God, the guy who is the most stable player on this T1 team at this point. I think that you can pretty safely lay your hopes on Gumayushi to have a really strong performance this world. I think he's going to be really excited that Jinx potentially could be back in the meta, get him off some of these casters, maybe even Callista angles, because I think there might be angles for stuff like that, things that we're not thinking about that the top teams obviously haven't gotten to show in this playing stage because they're not playing in it. So we'll have to see how the bot lane meta shakes out and if Guma's able to carry. And T1's World's Magic. I mean, they're T1. And there's really nothing else to say. So that's it for the top esports T1 matchup. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say that I think top esports are going to win. Because they look better to me in their, not their elimination, but I mean, I guess it was an elimination they qualified, I think, for their last game in like the gauntlet, and they looked pretty good. I've been watching a lot of LPL games in preparation, LPL and LCK games just in preparation for this video. And I think top esports form coming into this tournament looks a lot better. But that being said, T1's world buff, that's a good question of how strong it is. I don't think it's going to be strong enough because I mean Cream is just, he's a very mechanically gifted player. All of top esports are going to be really, really revving T1 red, I think, tomorrow. So we'll see how it plays out. Next matchup, GenG Weibo Gaming. This is obviously a heavy GenG favorite. For the good, I have down, His Holiness, the Diamond Monster, the Chovemeister, the guy who's going to absolutely, he's going to show the world why he's not a choker this Worlds, right, guys? Canyon, I firmly believe he's the best jungler in the world. I don't think there's a lot more else to say there. Hopefully I think jungle's pretty strong on this patch, so we'll see how it goes. Pays. Just don't let his team be winning, and you'll be fine. But he's really good from ahead. And then for the good for Weibo, I know I didn't really harp on it, but obviously there's a lot good for GenG, and I think Lahens is someone who's kind of an X factor here with his crazy picks, like Singed support. And then we have Weibo Gaming. The good for Weibo Gaming, the Tarzan factor. This guy has been really good this year. I mean, last Worlds he showed very bad performance, but this guy has really been able to. I think he's been a better jungler for them than Weiwei was. But they lost a lot when they lose, obviously, to Shy for Breathe, who's I think a vastly inferior player. All right, and then also Weibo Gaming have the second greatest player of all time, in my opinion, in the mid lane, Xiaohu. This guy's won MSI, 2 different roles, which is, I think, something that no one else can really say that they've done, and the difficulty of that might even make him the greatest player of all time, I think, in a lot of people's eyes. Chinese fans, maybe. But, obviously, I think Faker's the GOAT, and I don't think that's very much debatable. But Faker's never won an international tournament on any role but mid. Say about that what you will, but Xiaohu has, which is pretty insane. Not Worlds, take it, mind you. But it's really crazy. And then, obviously, Light Yagami. He could have that Light Yagami moment where he just becomes the god of death and just takes over the game in a best of 1. I mean, anything can happen. And then bad for GenG. Everybody knows Chovy's World's history. I have been in the arena watching Chovy just go mid instead of fight DRX at Dragon in World's semifinals in 2022. Why did he not do that? I don't know. I obviously I'm not good enough to know Chovy's reasoning. It felt like in the moment the energy was he was choosing to go get that mid lane. His team all like knew it. There's like not that level of communication. They all like saw him go mid, and then they still tried to fight the dragon. Yeah, obviously I can't get into the specifics of that game, but it just felt like me and my best friend were at that event, and we were just like, where is Chovy? Where, like, he's not at the fights that he needs to be at. Anyway, I hope he's fixed his aura problem. That's all I have to say about that's the end of my Chovy negatives. Keen is also somebody who can have a bad game. I don't really want to go too much further because I think he is generally pretty stable, but that's not somebody who I think super guaranteed anymore. And then, I mean, Pays, he's kind of having some struggles. I don't know if he's just not like able to really comprehend what he needs to do from behind, but he's not really having the best split of his career, and I think, you know, losing the Golden Road is hopefully going to wake him up. And the bad for Weibo Gaming. Breathe is a guy who really has his issues. I mean, this guy is not the Shy, and it is not as much of a guaranteed advantage as it used to be. And then Tarzan at Worlds. I mean, he is a former Griffin player, so which one of the two are going to choke more? I think there's a big Griffin storyline here. So if I were, you know, working for LoL Esports, I would be pulling up Griffin clips, and I would be trying to hype people up about this inner Griffin matchup, this, you know, LPL LCK Griffin matchup. I think that's a great storyline that you could really, really get into about, like, Chovy struggles at Worlds, Tarzan struggles at Worlds, who could their domination in the LPL. I mean, Tarzan made the LPL finals this year, which is really shocking, this split specifically, considering how Weibo was looking at the beginning of the year. But that's just something that I think kind of adds to the lore of the whole Griffin situation. So I think that's a banger. I think that's a really good matchup. But I think that obviously that's why you need a narrative, because GenG's a heavy, heavy favorite, and the expectation should be a win for GenG. Next matchup, the one everyone thinks is going to be an absolute fiesta, but I disagree. Fnatic, Damwon Kia. I just think Damwon Kia is going to backhand Fnatic tomorrow. I think they're just going to show them the difference between the East and the West, in so many words. I think that Showmaking Maker is going to absolutely make a show on the new meta. Syndra, you know, potentially Orianna. These are champions that Showmaker is excellent at. You know, a lot of people were joking that when these champs got buffed, it's like, T1 getting the fix, but these are Showmaker champs, gentlemen. These are Showmaker and Knight champs, so be aware. I think P. Diddy is a pretty good bot laner. He's pretty good at diddling. Kingin is good at Worlds. And I think that's all I have for the positives for Damwon, because there's a lot of there's not a lot, but I think that the Showmaking Maker, like having all of their carries being really, really exceptional players, I think is going to be enough to carry in a lot of different situations. And the good for Fnatic, Humanoid, maybe he is able to compete with elite Eastern mids. We need to see. He's kind of had some problems in the LEC. The LEC's levels not looked the greatest this year in general, but I guess Humanoid is one of those players that loves to be tested. He wants it. So let's see how it goes. And Noah June, they're a good bot lane if they're playing really well. And the bad for Damwon, we really need to say, like, this is Lucid's first season. This is kind of scary. He might do some weird things. Hopefully not. Moham, I think, is a bit of a disaster. And then we need to know what Showmaker thinks the meta is, because he could pick weird things, too. Showmaker's like the guy who'll just, like, slam Kassadin in your face. And they're throwers. And they have bad macro for Korea. And that's really, I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to make it sound like it's too negative. I don't want to go into too much more there. But, because the bad for Fnatic is also Oscar Innen, who is just, I think, an inferior top laner when you're in the very small pool of world's top laners. Obviously, he's one of the most elite players in the entire Earth, but not at this tournament. Sorry. Noah Mental. I don't know if he's quite over all of his, you know, he was having some problems with deciding whether or not he was going to be playing in the future. So we'll have to see, you know, how he is there. And they are the Omega throwers. Like, if Damwon are throwers, these guys throw 10 times harder than them. So I'm wondering if we'll get catch tomorrow. Everyone seems to think we're going to get catch. I don't even think that Damwon's going to throw. I don't think that Fnatic are capable of catching the throws that Damwon are going to be throwing. Like, the people who are catching the Damwon throws are LCK teams, not European teams. So, are they even capable of making those catches? We'll have to see. Anyway, I think I'm going to have to cut it short here. I'll go through the rest of the video, or rest of the matchups in another video, but I just want to thank you guys for watching if you did.